It's hard enough as it is trying to defeat Giannis Antetokounmpo and the Milwaukee Bucks on any given night. It's even harder when you take away your own strength. The Sacramento Kings fall to the Milwaukee Bucks 114-108 after they go away from what was working so well for them in the first half for the second straight game. We'll break it all down right here on Locked On Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily Sacramento Kings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is that time for another episode of Locked On Kings.
Hello and welcome into Locked On Kings, your podcast hub for Sacramento Kings coverage all season long. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off of your first purchase. My name is Matt George. I have the privilege of being your host here. I'm a Sacramento sports anchor and reporter for ABC 10 News, and like I've said a lot in Kings losses this season, there's a lot of good in this game. But ultimately, what matters is the final score, especially when you're in a playoff race. And the Kings did some really solid things against the Milwaukee Bucks tonight. We're in full control of this game for much of this game against the Bucks. Until the late third quarter, even early fourth quarter, I believe, the Sacramento Kings only trailed at one point in this game. It was when they were down 2-0. From that point, they were in full control, building up to a 14-point lead. The Bucks made a pushback in the first half, late in the first half. Kings did a good job extending that out to another double-digit lead going into halftime. Sacramento was playing well. Keon Ellis was balling out back in the starting lineup with Malik Monk out due to an illness. And no surprise, Sacramento got off to another really solid defensive start in this game with Keon Ellis in the starting lineup. On top of that, Keon offensively was fantastic in the first half. 18 points, 5 of 7 from the field, 3 of 4 from three-point range, 6 rebounds, 4 assists. He was carving the Bucks up on both ends of the floor. He was everywhere all at once, it seemed, and Milwaukee had no answer for him. And then in the second half, he only scored 2 points because he only took 3 shots. This is the second game in a row where the Sacramento Kings have blatantly and obviously gone away from what was working in the first half. Against the Chicago Bulls, red hot from three-point range to start that game. Right? The Kings had, 13 threes in the first quarter. Now, to be fair, we did not expect that to last. We knew the Kings shooting would come back down to earth a little bit. But what we didn't expect was for the Sacramento Kings to just stop shooting threes altogether. They shot, only 12 three-point attempts in the second half of that game. Now tonight, you have a guy that's red hot, a guy on Keon Ellis that's balling out, that is leading you to victory. You're having a ton of success with him, and you go away from him. And he only gets 3 shot attempts in the second half. 2 elements of this that we're going to talk about. One, why did you go away from him? Why were you not getting him the basketball and trying to continue to ride the hot hand throughout the entire game? And number 2, why did Doug Christie not have Keon Ellis on the floor in the final 5 minutes of this game? We'll break both of these down. We'll talk about both of these. But before I talk about it, let's hear the Sacramento Kings talk about it. I asked Keegan Murray, Keon Ellis, and Doug Christie about the halftime adjustments that opposing teams are making and how much that influenced the second half and the Kings going away from what was working. And you're going to hear very quickly, starting with Keon here, how it's not on the opposing teams. It's not their halftime adjustments. It's the Sacramento Kings. Keegan, are you noticing teams making significant second half adjustments against you? Against the Bulls, it was less three-point attempts. Tonight, it was less shot attempts for Keon, who had it going in the first half. Just what are you noticing from first half adjustments or halftime adjustments from opponents?
I don't know if it's opponents. I think it's us. We had something clicking in the third quarter, a certain set, which is just a side ball screen and a throwback, and then we got away from that, and I think that's kind of where the game ended right there. So we just had to stay consistent and make the game as simple as possible.
Keon, really good first half for you, then just 3 shot attempts in the second half. I asked Keegan a little bit about halftime adjustments of opponents, and he said it's not adjustments, it's you guys. Do you agree with that assessment? Why does it feel like you guys go away from what's working in the first half so much?
I don't necessarily feel that way. I mean, what was working for us was in the first half, ball movement a lot. And then I think, as far as me personally, the shots that I was getting just was how the defense reacted to certain things. And I think in the second half, they had trouble guarding our step-up screen. So we kind of ran that until, they kind of tried to figure it out. But I think they called a timeout, and then we tried to drop a play and maybe didn't score for 2 possessions or whatever, then just went to something else instead of staying with the step. But I don't think we intentionally went away from it. I think we kind of forgot maybe what was working for us. So at that point, you tried to explore a little bit more within our offense and the other plays that we have. So, but probably would have been smarter to just stick to what we were killing them with.
Doug, building off that, Keon had a really, really solid first half, and then I think just 3 shot attempts in the second half. Asked Keegan about the halftime adjustments, and he said it's not the opposing adjustments, it's more of us. Do you see the same thing, just like what you talked about?
Yeah, it really is. Like I constantly, you give teams credit, obviously, that they make adjustments and they come out and they do certain things, but our ability to be consistent in our approach when we find something that is working or knowing coverages and different things, we just gotta continue to do it. And sometimes it gets difficult, and sometimes you give them credit as well. Tonight, I think it was a little bit of both. I mean, Giannis is an incredible player, so he's going to get calls, he's going to get downhill, he's going to do all of those things. But we had the game and had the ability to close it, and we have to do that.
3 things from those 3 men that speak volumes to me, or that stand out to me. Number 1, you heard Keegan say it right off the bat. It's on the Kings. It's not on the halftime adjustments that opposing teams are making. It's on the Kings. It wasn't the Chicago Bulls that suddenly took the 3-point shot away from the Kings the other night. It wasn't the Milwaukee Bucks that suddenly locked down Keon Ellis and denied him the basketball the same way Keegan Murray and the Kings were basically denying Steph Curry the basketball when they were trying to keep him from reaching his 4,000 3-point mark a couple weeks ago against Golden State, or a week ago against Golden State, however long ago that was. That wasn't what happened. It was the Kings willingly going away from it. Keon Ellis said that, I don't know, maybe we forgot what was working. Like, how can you forget? And if you do forget, who is responsible for reminding you, hey, this was working in the first half. We should probably go back to it and do it a little bit more. And then you have Doug Christie that is talking about keep it simple. Keep it simple. This was working. Keep it simple. And the Kings, I don't know if they got bored of it. I don't know if DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine decided, okay, it's our turn to get our shots up. The Kings did not keep it simple. They took their own strengths away. Their opponent didn't have to. Sacramento did it themselves. I know, as much as Doug says keep it simple, NBA basketball is not a simple game. We'd like to pretend it is, and like to break it down. It's just put the ball in the basket. But there's a billion things going on that we watch and try and be privy to, that these guys are breaking down and looking at in film and things like that are working on behind the scenes that many of us don't necessarily see or don't understand. But I think we can all see when you have something that's working for you, when you just stop trying to do it. It doesn't make any sense. The reality of everything that those 3 guys said is this: they do it to themselves. They went away from what was working. They went away from Keon Ellis, the hot hand, themselves. They chose to do it. They were not forced to. They chose to. They did the hard work for Milwaukee. That's the first part. Then the second part. Why was Keon Ellis not on the floor over the final 5 minutes of this game when he was one of the best, if not the best player for the Sacramento Kings in this game. Doug Christie explains and expresses his regrets.
I wanted to go back to him after a minute because in the timeout, I believe I can't remember who they went to, but the size had the ability to switch across. So, and then all of a sudden the game started happening, and I wish that I probably would have went back to Keon. But, in those moments, sometimes guys are playing well, sometimes it's size and physicality, and sometimes he'll be the guy, sometimes it'll be Jake. It just depends.
You heard it right there. Doug Christie wishes he had put Keon Ellis back out there. This is something that I think Doug Christie has to wear in this game. But this isn't a defense of Doug Christie. To me, this is more a condemnation of the Sacramento Kings and their fourth quarter as a whole. I don't know how much Keon Ellis would have made a difference for the Sacramento Kings down the stretch. Not because Keon Ellis is not important, but because Sacramento killed themselves in the fourth quarter offensively. Could their defense have been a little bit better? Certainly. Right? The fact that the Milwaukee Bucks took a lead and built a lead while allowing Giannis Antetokounmpo to rest for the first half of the quarter. Literally 6 minutes of the quarter, Giannis is not on the floor. The Bucks take their first lead and build that lead out to where Giannis could come in fresh and shut this game down. Right? And it was really Gary Trent Jr. that hit a couple of really big threes to shut this game down. But to me, I don't know how much Keon would have mattered offensively down the stretch of this game had he been on the floor or not, because I don't know how much Keon would have touched the ball. Because the same two guys that you would expect to be touching the ball down the stretch were pretty much the only guys who did touch the ball down the stretch. In the next segment, we'll break down the Kings' fourth quarter offense, how stagnant it got. And you'll hear Keon Ellis and Doug Christie talk about that. That's coming up for you here in just a second. Today's episode of the Locked On Kings podcast is brought to you by Robinhood and Robinhood Gold. With Robinhood Gold, you can now enjoy the VIP treatment, receiving a 3% IRA match on retirement contributions. The privileges of the very privileged are no longer exclusive. With Robinhood Gold, your annual IRA contributions are boosted by 3%, plus you also get 4% APY on your cash in non-retirement accounts. That's over 8 times the national average, or national savings average, It's the perks of the high net worth, now available for any net worth. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. To receive your 3% boost on annual IRA contributions, sign up at Robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate subject to change. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold at $5 a month for 1 year from first match. Must keep funds in IRA for 5 years. Go to Robinhood.com/boost. Over 8 times the national average savings account interest rate claim is based on data from the FDIC as of November 18th, 2024. Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold, LLC. Today's episode of the Locked On Kings podcast is also brought to you by Game Time. There's nothing like watching basketball live. The energy of the crowd, the sound of sneakers on the hardwood, and maybe even a celebrity sighting or two at a game courtside. If you want to catch a game in person, Game Time makes getting tickets easier than ever. Game Time's new feature, Game Time Picks, filters out all of the fluff and shows you only the best deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time scrolling through thousands of tickets. It's super easy to find the tickets that you want. I know we're talking about basketball tickets in this ad, but I just used Game Time to go and get some A's tickets here in Sacramento to their opening series against the Chicago Cubs. Some tickets for my wife and my sister-in-law. Not only were tickets super easy to find, Game Time also includes the big giveaway days there, so you understand, like if you go to a game on this day, you're going to get a Ricky Henderson t-shirt or whatever the giveaway is, or if it's a fireworks night or anything like that. They communicate that very clearly, and the prices that you find on Game Time can't be beat. I'm talking $60 just for each ticket just to get them into the ballpark for that historic opening A's series against the Cubs here in Sacramento. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Let's talk about the Kings' stagnant fourth quarter offense. The Kings in the fourth quarter scored 19 points after a 25-point first quarter, a 36-point second quarter, and a 28-point third quarter. As much as we want to talk about, we know the defensive shortcomings of the Sacramento Kings team. The fourth quarter, they failed themselves on the offensive end. They lost this game because they could not score in the fourth quarter. In the fourth quarter, they had 19 total shot attempts. They shot 42% in the quarter. It's not terrible, but it's not great. But only 3 of their 21 assists in this game, 21 assists, a pretty low number. Only 3 of those assists came in the fourth quarter. 5 of the 8 field goals that the Sacramento Kings made in the fourth quarter were unassisted, meaning ISO ball. DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine took 11 of the 19 shots that the Kings took in the fourth quarter. DeMar DeRozan took 9 of those 11 shots between the two. He had 9 points, 4 of 9 from the field. Zach LaVine, 0 of 2 from the field in the fourth quarter. Now, we've been down this road before, especially with DeMar DeRozan. We've talked about this before. It is unfair to criticize DeRozan and LaVine for their isolation offense and taking the bulk of those shot attempts down the stretch of games and criticize it when it doesn't work, when the shots don't come in, when the Kings lose, but then praise it when the Sacramento Kings win. Go back to the Kings win in Dallas right before the All-Star break, right? And or was that after the All-Star break? Regardless, DeMar DeRozan, huge in that game, huge in the fourth quarter. He's been huge in the fourth quarter for the Sacramento Kings a couple times. He was huge in closing out the Kings' win over the Cleveland Cavaliers in this building earlier this week, right? So it's unfair to criticize it when it's negative and then praise it when it's positive, right? That's inconsistent. That's hypocritical. That's not what I'm trying to do here. My point is there's got to be a balance. We got to find a balance because DeMar is elite in those moments. And out of anybody on the roster, he's the guy that you trust with the ball in his hands the most in those spots. But that doesn't mean he's the only one that should have the ball in his hands. Zach LaVine only taking 2 shots in the fourth quarter is whatever, but if I know one of the 2 shots Zach LaVine took was a tough ISO turnaround fadeaway jumper in the exact same spot where the possession before DeMar DeRozan tried and missed the exact same type of shot. I'm not against those guys taking those shots down the stretch. That's what you pay them for. You trust them in those spots. What I'm against is doing it every single time or dribbling out 16 seconds of the shot clock only to set those guys up in those spots. Move the ball. Look for other shots. I know Trey Lyles also chucked a couple of threes and quite frankly bricked a couple of threes in the fourth quarter as well. So it's not like DeMar and LaVine were the only guys shooting and told everybody stand on the perimeter and watch, right? But defenses know where the ball's going to go. And the Sacramento Kings putting all their eggs in DeMar's basket especially, but a little bit in Zach LaVine's basket. It's not the worst investment you could make, but I just think it oversimplifies what the Kings do. Again, you might feel more aggressively or hostile or anti the DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine isolation looks to end a game. You might be a little more harsh about it or critical of it than I'm being right now. And I promise you I'm not trying to fence sit. I'm just trying to be consistent and not be a hypocrite with this. I trust those guys. You're going to hear in a second how much Doug Christie trusts those guys. But you're also going to hear in a second Keon Ellis breaking down how maybe, just maybe, the Sacramento Kings should try and look for something else and try and draw something else up instead of just relying on those guys and giving them the ball the entire time. Do I think DeRozan and Levine are such selfish players that they tell everybody else, only give us the ball and get the hell out of the way? No, I do not believe that is the case. But I think this team is so comfortable and so reliant on them in those moments that they don't even think about trying for something else. And I don't think Doug Christie is willing to say what needs to be said in those moments, or I don't know if it's his job or it's his responsibility to say what needs to be said in those moments. I kind of look at DeMar and Levine as well and go, hey guys, maybe try and get others involved too. Whoever you want to blame, it doesn't matter who's to blame. The reality is the Sacramento Kings need to do a better job in those moments of moving the basketball and trying to create more than just those isolation looks for those two guys. You can do better than that, especially when you were scoring by moving the ball so well for the first 3 quarters of the game. Here's Keon Ellis and Doug Christie talking about the stagnant fourth quarter offense.
If that's the case, I think we're just trying to slow it down and just get it to our guys who we know are clutch in those situations. So maybe it's a thing of trying to get it to them too much, too early maybe. And I think probably could move the ball a little bit more before we try to, I would say just go ISO ball and just try to get it to the guys who we know can make the tough shots and, those timely shots. So I think that might be what it could be. But damn, I'm blanking. I kind of forgot the question. But yeah, I think in situations you probably could just try to explore a little bit more within the offense and see if we can get the defense to make a mistake before we just try to hit tough shot after tough shot. Many times, sometimes the defense blows the play up, and as the shot clock is going down, then you take your time. I think that we have to explore early in the shot clock, and sometimes we're not playing as fast as we need to, and then that allows them to press up. All of a sudden it gets later in the shot clock, and now you become that without even knowing why it happened. We found a rhythm with a step up and collapse the defense, kick it out. We were getting whatever we wanted. And then we had a couple possessions where, for whatever reason, I have to go back and look at it, and whether they pressed up, whatever the case was, all of a sudden we found ourselves in the ability to, you got to either go hard to collapse the defense and spray the ball, and when that happens, you just got to be ready to shoot it. And I will say, like, tonight we got some pretty good looks, and we just didn't knock them down at the same time. So it's easy to look at, stagnant, but, I mean, we were 9 for 38 and 2 for 7 to close. So we make some of those that we normally do make, and, it's a different ball game. So it's not all of what you're saying, because I'll put that ball in those guys' hands and trust them any night of the week, because most times they come through. Tonight, you missed some shots. That's it. I would be more about making sure that we're locked in on defense, coming up with those extra balls, the one that bounced around and they hit the 3. Like, those are the things that we want to do, those extra effort plays.
Today's episode of the Locked On Kings podcast is brought to you by Upwork. Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more, experts ready to help you take your business to the next level. Upwork gives business flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. You can find the right talent if you need help with a marketing campaign. Upwork can connect you with a freelance expert who's delivering incredible results. The hiring is fast and easy. Time is money, and you don't waste time. Posting a job is free and simple, and within a day, multiple qualified candidates, you'll have them to choose from. There's cost-efficient growth. Instead of hiring full-time, Upwork helps you find affordable top-tier freelancers to scale your business effectively and efficiently. Visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That's UPWORK.com, Upwork.com, to connect with top talent and grow your business today. There's been a pretty consistent theme in the last 4 games here in Sacramento. And that's that Jonas Valanciunas, who, of course, had to step into a bigger role when Domantas Sabonis hurt his ankle against the Memphis Grizzlies to open up this week. Valanciunas has not been on the floor a lot to close games. I know his mobility is the main thing you look at, right? He's just not as mobile as Domantas Sabonis is. He's a big dude. And he's especially nice to have at least lingering around the paint when a man as big as Giannis Antetokounmpo, who dominated the Sacramento Kings in the third quarter of this game. He's nice to have there to at least not get thrown aside by the strength of Giannis when he attacks the basket. And I'll give the Kings a lot of credit, too. I thought Sacramento, for the most part, did a really, really, really good job of defending Giannis Antetokounmpo. Or you did as well as you could. That man, the Greek freak, he's a freak for a reason, right? He's good luck. Keegan Murray did well on him. Jake LaRavia, at times, did well on him. The help defense was there. The double teams at times, triple teams were there. I thought Sacramento did a pretty solid job. He still scored over 30 points. It's Giannis. But in the first half in particular, I thought the Kings did a really good job defending him until he just went MVP status in that third quarter. Jonas Valanciunas not on the floor again to close this game out, but I thought Valanciunas was really solid in this game for the Kings. Right? He was going right at Brook Lopez, had no problem. 18 points, 8 of 11 from the field, 7 rebounds. Now, again, I understand the mobility. I understand having Trey Lyles out there, who's had a really, really good homestand for the most part. Like I talked about earlier, he bricked a couple of shots in the fourth quarter, which were unfortunate. But he's had a really solid homestand for the most part. Trey Lyles out there. He's been playing well recently. He stretches the floor a little bit better. So I understand the reasoning for why you've had Trey Lyles close out these games recently over Jonas Valanciunas, but this is an instance where you were struggling to score in the paint. The Bucks didn't really have too many answers for Valanciunas. It's not like he was dominating or taking over or anything like that, but he was efficient, 8 of 11 from the field. They would have given you just at least another look around the basket. You're taking 2-pointers anyway, or contested mid-range jumpers. Why not look for a couple of buckets in the paint with Valanciunas? Kings went away from it. Maybe another one of those things that Doug Christie regrets when he breaks down the game film and revisits tonight's game and gets ready for Monday. Because guess who's coming Monday? The Boston Celtics. A Celtics team that, you beat them in Boston. You think they forget that? I don't think the Celtics are going to be nearly as beatable or vulnerable in the home stretch of the season right now as they were when the Sacramento Kings beat them in Boston. Not saying it's impossible, but if you were to tell me the Kings are going to sweep the Celtics, I would be very, very skeptical about that, to say the least. Oh, yeah, and that's just game one of a doubleheader of doom, because after that, you got the Oklahoma City Thunder coming in. Kings have to be very careful, right? Very, very careful. They're back to 500. They're 35-35 on the season. Because, unfortunately, they lost that game to the Chicago Bulls, they're in this position. It's like I talked about after the Bulls game. The Kings wasted that win against the Cleveland Cavaliers. And here they are. They're back at 500. Maybe they should have been here anyway with a loss to the Cavs and a win against the Bulls, but you beat the Cavs first, and you didn't handle business against Chicago. Now you have the two best teams in the NBA coming through. And not only that, there are teams breathing down your neck. The Phoenix Suns, who are in 10th, are a game and a half back of you. Only a game and a half, and you have 2 games coming up against really, really, really bad teams. The Suns, by the way, just beat the Cleveland Cavaliers too. And I know the Suns have their issues, but the Suns also have a guy named Kevin Durant, another guy named Bradley Beal, and another guy named Devin Booker. That's a talented freaking roster. If they can figure things out and start to score and start to play better, they're more than talented enough to win some big games down the stretch. I know they have a very difficult schedule too, but that big 3 is better than Sacramento's big 3 talent-wise. I'm sorry, it's not close. Well, okay, that's not fair. Bradley Beal probably drags it down a little bit because of Bradley Beal now is not the same as Bradley Beal from Washington a handful of years ago. But they still have Durant. They still have Booker. Those 2 are better players than any player the Sacramento Kings have, especially with Domantas Sabonis being out with injury for the rest of this homestand at least. Not only that, not only are the Kings at risk of dropping to 10th and losing the home court advantage for the first play-in game, the Sacramento Kings are also only a game and a half up of the Dallas Mavericks in 11th. So, y'all, the possibility of them falling out of the play-in altogether is not off the table. I'm not predicting it. I don't think that's going to happen. I do think this is going to be a play-in team. I do think they're going to end up in 9th. I feel pretty confident with that. But the Kings, should be looking at the standings, looking at their schedule, looking at the next 2 games and going, oh boy, we got to find a way to win one of these because we could end this homestand. And, well, they do have the Portland Trailblazers next week on Thursday, I believe. But the Trailblazers have also beaten the Kings twice already this season. You somehow lose that game too, you might be on the outside of the play-in looking in, even against a wounded team like the Dallas Mavericks. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. They're right there. It's the position you put yourself in, so put up or shut up time. We'll see if the Kings can do it. I want to hear from you, your thoughts. Hit me up on Twitter, @MattGeorgeSack. You can email me, mattgeorgesports@gmail.com. Leave your thoughts in the YouTube comment section down below. Appreciate your support as always. Can't wait to have you join me on the next episode of the Locked On Kings podcast. Until then, my name is Matt George. You've been listening to Locked On Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.